What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today I'm looking at Zoroark Gardevoir, an archetype that Tord Reklev just won the Oceania Internationals with, and Philip Scholes took to a top 4 placing, I believe. Yeah, top 4. But I've updated this with Ultra Prism, and this is one of my top choices if I was going to St. Louis Regionals, which unfortunately I'm not. But I think this archetype is really strong. It's been pretty consistent for me. It has a lot of good matchups. And yeah, I'll talk about the matchups a little bit more as we go through and how some cards help different matchups. So we're starting out with 4 Zorua and 4 Zoroark GX. So Zoroark GX, you all know it has that trade ability. Once during your turn, you may discard a card from your hand. If you do, draw 2 cards. Zoroark GX is both the draw, support of the deck, and one of the attackers. Ride is beating for a double colorless energy, does 20 damage for each of your Pokemon in play. So in the standard format, this is capped at 120 or 150 with a choice band. And we won't be using Trickster GX in this deck. Next, we have 4 Ralts. I'm pretty sure there's like 3 or 4 Ralts in Standard that you can be using. It might be smart to put in 1 of the Psychic Ralts. I just put in 4 of this Fairy Ralts for now. But I think 1 of the Psychic Ralts might be okay. I think Espeon Garb is going to be having an influx of popularity, so starting out with the Psychic Weak Ralts might actually not be good. But yeah, so I don't want to talk about the Ralts too much, but we are playing 4 Ralts, regardless of which one you choose to put in the deck, or a combination of them. We're playing 2 Gardevoir GX, 230 HP Fairy Stage 2, which is probably the best Stage 2 we have in the game. It has that Secret Spring ability, which excels the Fairy Energy. Once during your turn, you may attach a Fairy Energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. And Infinite Force for 1 Fairy. This attack does 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon, so it's kind of like a really powerful energy drive. And it also has an amazing GX attack for 1 Fairy Energy. Twilight GX, shuffle 10 cards from your discard pile into your deck. So, as you might be able to imagine, with the Zoroark Puzzle of Time engine, getting back all those resources, using a Twilight GX mid to late game to get back those 4 Puzzle of Time and even more resources into your deck when maybe you and your opponent had a lull of a turn back and forth. It could be really powerful to get back your max potions, your candies, your choice band, your Guzmas, your tech attackers like Mew and Clefairy. So Twilight GX is really good. And it is the only GX attack we can actually use in this deck from our attackers. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a few seconds, because we have 2 attackers in this deck that copy attacks. And next we have 1 Gallade from Breakthrough. 150 HP Fighting type Stage 2. It's also evolving from Ralts, which is why we can use Gallade in these Gardevoir decks so easily. Its ability Premonition. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put them back on top of your deck in any order. This goes really well with trade. You can just Premonition whatever you want to the top 2 out of those 5 cards and then trade for them. Also, Sensitive Blade for a double colorless energy does 60 plus 70 more damage if you played a supporter card this turn. So this is getting one-shots on any fighting weak Pokemon if you played a supporter that turn. And for our other support Pokemon, we have 3 Tapu Lele GX, the Wonder Tag ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So Wonder Tag has been incredibly useful ever since it came out. People might be putting 2 Leles as opposed to 3 in their decks now because of Glaceon GX, but we'll have to see if that gains popularity. It also has energy drive, which is definitely worth mentioning. For a double colorless energy, it does 20 damage, times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So Lele has proven itself to be a fairly good attacker when your main attacker isn't up and ready to go. We can't use its Tapu Cure GX because we aren't playing any Psychic or Rainbow Energy, and it's also worth noting that Lele only has one retreat cost, which is really nice. So, let's get into our tech Pokemon of the deck. I am playing one Clefairy from Evolutions, which was not seen in Tord and Phillips' version of the deck. I think pre-Ultra Prism it was fine to not play it, but this card is so good after Ultra Prism came out because we have more one-shots in the format, like Duskmane Necrozma's attack that does 220, and that really hurts Zoroark decks because we are kind of damage capped. We can only hit 120 or 150 with Zoroark, and Gardevoir is getting one shot by Duskmane Necrozma, so you kind of look at this deck and think, how can this survive a format and a meta where Duskmane Necrozma is at these tournaments? Well, you can play Clefairy and use its Metronome attack for 3 colorless energy, which will often be 1 fairy and a DCE, which you can get down all in one turn if you have a Gardevoir set up. Metronome, choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So you can copy Duskmane Necrozma's attack that does 220 and discard 3 energy. You'll be discarding your energy, but you're dealing 220 damage with a 40 HP basic non-EX, non-GX attacker. So Clefairy is great for a lot of matchups, but that's what made me put it in here. Also, it's really good against Tapu Bulu GX. Against the Duskmane Necrozma Magnezone archetype in general, if your opponent puts down a Dialga GX and Clefairy isn't prized, you pretty much got the game because you can Guzma up their Dialga GX, Metronome to copy their Timeless GX attack, one-shot it because of Dialga's fairy weakness, and then on your next turn try to get a Guzma or whatever you need to do to try to get another knockout. Maybe Metronome the Duskmane Necrozma that you Guzma up, or whatever they send up if you can Metronome it for a knockout. Or not even use Metronome at all. Maybe you'll get your other prizes with Infinite Force from Gardevoir. But anyway, Clefairy has proved itself so useful in my testing. I've played about 10 games with this exact list. Clefairy actually was the MVP at the end of my PTCGO games. All 4 matches against Duskmane Necrozma Magnezone, which I won all 4 games I've tested against that deck so far, thanks to Clefairy. We have Giratina, the promo, which has that ability Devour Light. Each Pokemon break has no abilities. This is just so we do not lose to Greninja Break. Greninja Break as a deck, I believe if it sets up, it has the most powerful board state you can have in the current standard format, and Giratina just makes all of the breaks abilities not exist, so they don't have their giant water shurikens, which make it such a good deck. And then we have one Mew EX, which is our other Pokemon that can copy attacks. Mostly we'll be using this to copy either Infinite Force or Riotous Beating to knock out opposing Psychic Weak Pokemon like Buzzwole GX or Espeon GX. And it's really nice to be able to slap this down, attach a DCE or a Fairy, and then go ahead and copy an attack on the board to one-shot a big beefy Pokemon like Buzzwole or Espeon GX, which otherwise could be kind of hard to take down with this deck unless you have a Gardevoir that you got set up really nicely. So Mew EX can be kind of a liability, so you don't want to bench it until you're really sure you're going to use it and it's going to pay off in the long run. So that's all for the Pokemon. Like I said, kind of all 3 techs are really important in their own way. Clefairy puts in more work than I could ever have hoped for. Giratina is only there for Greninja, but it does usually win you that matchup. And Mew EX helps a lot against any Psychic Weak decks. And so let's get into the trainers, supporters, and stadiums. We've got one Enhanced Hammer, It's really good against Zoroark decks, but I only have one included because we might see Zoroark decks kind of die down just a little bit because we have a lot of new archetypes, some archetypes coming back, and also Glaceon GX is now a card which makes Zoroark GX's trade ability along with all other GX and EX abilities not work while it's active. So we might see kind of a decline of these Zoroark decks with 4 DCE. So Enhanced Hammer, I think it's safe to drop down to 1 for now. And we always have Puzzle of Time and Twilight GX if we need to use more than 1 Enhanced Hammer in a game. We are playing 1 Evo Soda as kind of our 5th out to search for Zoroark GXs. We have the customary 4 Ultra Ball, of course, but the 1 Evo Soda, I hit it a lot, actually, and it's really, really nice to have just to search out that other Zoroark GX. It also gets around the occasional Po-Town you might see in Gardevoir variants, or Damage Spread variants, because it goes from your deck to the basic Pokemon. We have 2 Field Blower. I do think that Gardevoir variants are going to see a resurgence, and Field Blower is completely necessary against that deck because you need to get rid of their tools on their Garbotoxin so you can use their abilities, because let's just look around at the cards in this deck. If you'll notice, pretty much every card either evolves into something that has an ability or it has an ability itself, other than our lovely Clefairy, which does not need any abilities. But yeah, we're going to be wanting to get off those tools, off of our opposing Garbotoxins, so we can continue to use our abilities and our deck can function as it's supposed to. 1 Max Potion. A lot of times our attackers are only needing 1 energy, like a Zoroark GX with a DCE or a Gardevoir with 1 Fairy, so you can Max Potion, and without too much of a cost, only getting rid of 1 energy, completely healing your Pokemon, and then just go ahead and reattach some energy. Or you can even leave something beefy like a Gardevoir GX or a Gallade in the active on a turn where you couldn't find energy, and then Max Potion it the next turn and maybe dig a little and find your energy that you want to attach. Next we have 1 Pal Pad, which is new to the deck from Ultra Prism. I do like Pal Pad because it allows us to play a little more of a spread out supporter count and get your supporters back later in the game. I would feel really iffy about 2 Guzma personally, but since we have Pal Pad, it can turn into 3 or 4 Guzma later in the game. We have 4 Puzzle of Time. We don't really ever want to use the if you played 1 card effect of Puzzle of Time. We really want to play 2 cards at once to put 2 cards from your discard pile into your hand. It's just really great for getting back resources like double colorless energy, choice band, rare candy, and tech attackers like Clefairy and Mew EX. So we're playing 3 rare candy. We don't have any way to evolve our Gardevoir and our Gallade other than these rare candy. So it goes, we have no Curlia. It goes straight from Ralts to Gallade or Gardevoir with the use of the 3 rare candy. And 3 is really all you'll ever need. Most games you won't use more than 2 if you've even used that. A lot of games get finished with just 1 Gallade or 1 Gardevoir being the backup attacker to Zoroark. Unless you're playing against a deck that's really, really good at handling Zoroark, then you'll be trying to use your Gallade and 2 Gardevoirs. We have 4 Ultra Ball, which I mentioned earlier is pretty customary. We have 1 Parallel City, which is really good to limit either your bench against things like Lycanroc GX's Dangerous Rogue or Breakthrough Zoroark's Mind Jack. It's also good to limit your opponent's bench if they have a lot of things they need to set up, or even in this new format, you can limit your bench and make your opposing Pokemon, your opponent's Empoleon do less damage while you're limiting your bench. If you do not know, Empoleon does 20 damage for each Pokemon in play, so you can take some Pokemon off of your bench and also make their water Pokemon do less damage. Parallel City is just really disruptive, and some people don't expect it, so it can really hinder their board. If you put it down when they only have 3 basic Pokemon, then they can't get rid of it, and they can't bench anymore. So it's just a cute little tech to have. It's also our only counter stadium. We can get stadiums out of the way with Field Blower, but it's nice to have a stadium of our own. We have 3 Bridget because it's so nice to start with a Bridget in your hand. Or you can just always safely Tapu Lele and expect a Bridget to be there, and then later in the game, it's really just fodder to discard with your trades. So it doesn't hurt having those 3 in the deck because you can just get rid of them with trades later on. And Bridget's just really, really good. It's I would like to note that you cannot get 3 basic Pokemon if one of them include your Mew EX. It's 1 basic Pokemon EX or 3 basic Pokemon excluding EXs. Then we have 2 Cynthia, the new supporter from Ultra Prism. Shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 6 cards. I'm playing these 2 in place of the Sycamores because a lot of times you want to save your resources, and especially with Zoroark GX decks, you have a big hand a lot of times, so you don't want to throw away your whole hand. Sometimes it's more useful to just shuffle everything in, draw 6 new cards. Then we have 2 Guzma. Like I said, 2 is kind of a low count, but we have Pal Pad and 4 Puzzle of Time, so I am confident in getting these back when I need to. Guzma is our gust effect of the format, kinda. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. If you do, switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Then we have 1 Mallow. Tord and Philip Scholes were both playing 2 Mallow in their deck, but I think 1 will suffice with the 4 Puzzle of Time and the Pal Pad. Mallow, we search your deck for 2 cards, shuffle your deck, then put those cards on top of it in any order. It pairs really well with Zoroark's trade ability. Then we have 3N. Some people might choose to play 3 Cynthia, but I do like having 3N just to get rid of your opponent's beacons or your opponent's magical ribbons, or if your opponent just has a really large hand that we want to put down to however many prizes they have. N's always really good to have around. And then this I am kind of iffy on, but this is taken straight from Tord's list, the 1 Choice Band, 1 Float Stone. I would like to see it be 2 Choice Bands, but it's honestly not been a problem in testing so far. I've been doing really well with having the Choice Band when I need it, and just also not needing the Choice Band a lot of the time. So we're just playing the 1 Choice Band and 1 Float Stone, but like I said, guys, you can always get back these resources with Puzzle of Time and Twilight GX. So we are a little stingy on some of the cards, but that's so we can fit all of this into the deck. And then we're playing 4 DCE and 4 Fairy Energy. So 4 Fairy Energy, not what you see in a Gardevoir deck. Well, this isn't a Gardevoir deck. It's a Zoroark deck with Gardevoir as its partner. And also it's kind of teched out with the Clefairy and the Mew EX and the Giratina and the Enhanced Hammer, the Max Potion, the Parallel City. It's really a strong deck, and I loved watching it on stream this past weekend in the Oceania Internationals, and I was super excited to get on PTCGO and make my own list updated for the breakthrough through Ultra Prism format. Like I said, this would be one of my 3 top choices if I was going to St. Louis. I was almost going to go to St. Louis, but I already have work scheduled and I can't get out of it. So I won't be going, but I think this deck could potentially do really, really well. So I encourage anybody going, and even if you're not going, try this deck out. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's super strong, and not too many bad matchups as far as I can tell. So, yeah, guys, thank you for watching this video. As always, you can subscribe to my channel if you want to see more Pokemon content from me. Follow me on Twitter. Links to that in the description below. And also, I should be starting to stream again on Twitch. I haven't been streaming because my PC's graphic card broke, but that should be back in soon. Also, I launched my Patreon, which I have that little logo up there. You can check that out in the description below. And also my sponsor, Guardian Gaming, TCG.com, where you can get any kind of codes you need for the PTCGO game at a pretty fair price, and they're emailed right out to you as soon as you pay. And I believe the whole store is 5% off if you buy 100 codes or more. So I also want to throw that in there. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.